Hello and welcome back to the Prepared Mind channel. It is Thursday morning. Guess what? Trump apparently walked out on the Democrats. He invited them over to the White House to discuss the border wall, the government shutdown, funding everything, right? It was supposed to be a good discussion. Now, what I'm surprised about is I'm surprised that Nancy and Chuck Schumer even had the guts to go over there and actually talk for themselves rather than just sending their aides over. Be that as it may, as reported by Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, who ran immediately to a microphone because they wanted to be the first to tell us how everything is Trump's fault. Now, in my opinion, the government shutdown is the fault of both the House, the Senate, and it also includes President Trump. He can just capitulate and bend over and do exactly what the Democrats want, or he can fight them. This is partisan politics. Now, we can all justify our positions, can we not? Right? 3 years ago, Chuck Schumer publicly called for and has been shown to be a hypocritical, lying piece of shit of galactic scale. Because he said we need a wall down there. Now they're calling the wall immoral, unnecessary, unneeded, impractical, inefficient, etc., etc. So that's their position. Now, I did some talking today. I did some on-the-street interviews with people. And they told me, well, you know, if we stop these illegals from coming in, we won't be spending money on them for SNAP and EBT. We won't be giving them Social Security and SSI. We won't be giving them free medical care, free education, and other government benefits that you and I pay for. And those savings alone, by keeping them out and then kicking out other illegal, that means criminal, that means go to fucking jail. We keep illegals out and go kick more out, we can pay for that wall, right? This $5 billion chunk they want, right? It's $5 billion. That's incredible, but at the same time, you know, in a budget that is trillions and trillions of dollars annually, they want to stop it over that, right? So, yeah, they're all responsible, but who is right? Who has the best plan? It doesn't matter because it doesn't come down to logic and thinking. It's about partisan politics. Communists versus not communists. You know, I want freedom and liberty. Apparently that's not even on the table, but we're just trying to keep this country afloat, right? Trying to keep it solvent. And that's not going to happen, folks. We're going down in flames. So, because of that, this week, non-essential federal government workers and subcontractors are not going to be paid. That's right, they're not going to get a paycheck. Now, very soon, it's already reportedly started happening, but very soon, the SNAP and EBT is going to be out of funding as well. That is also considered non-essential for the government to spend. You know, it's interesting how the government looks out for its needs and its essentialness, but the people that work for them felt they have a solid government job. Of course, your tax dollars pay for it. And nobody who works for the government pays taxes because they're not producing anything, you see. They can't say, well, you know, I got paid $5,000 last month and I only got to take $3,000 home because I had to pay taxes. No, the taxpayers paid your taxes for you, your Social Security, your SSI, and paid to send you home with money. Government workers do not pay taxes. Just because they promise them a higher check and then take a bunch of it out, it's me and you not only funding to pay them what they do take home, but all of their other benefits. Now, I don't hate them, and I don't think that they shouldn't get paid, and that if it's something that's required, yeah, we should have those jobs. But I think we have way too much bureaucracy, way too much government, and they should be eliminated, period. Not all of them all at once, but government needs to be scaled back. But that's not going to happen. That's not on the table. See, that's part of the, not the left paradigm. That's way over here on the freedom side. In order to get more freedom, we need less government. More freedom, less government. Get them out of there. But Now, what we know is going to happen is eventually Trump is going to capitulate, or the Democrats are going to capitulate, give in. So who's going to give in first? Now, I've talked about Trump. He's from New York. He's used to fighting and scrapping and screaming and yelling and getting his way. And even Chuck said, oh, he threw a fit and he hit his hands on the table. And I got to tell you, in the world of feminism, a man pounding on the table with his fist, that is toxic masculine behavior coming from the president. So you can see why Chuck Schumer said that was unpresidential. Even though elected officials in Washington are now calling the President of the United States, not an ex-president, not a president-to-be or a potential president, but the very president, they're calling him a motherfucker. They're calling him all sorts of dirty names, liar, mofo, you name it. It's the most vicious personal attacks. I don't think I ever called Barack Hussein, Barry Soetoro, Obama a motherfucker. And I'm not even representing close to 500,000 people as a congressman. Or as a senator, I'm not representing half my state and calling the President of the United States names, right? Mischaracterizing or attacking his character. Now, it's interesting, and I'll point out again, that the Democrats, all their statistics, they are right on and telling the truth. But everything the president says must be a lie. Right? Why? Because it's partisan politics. This is about partisanship and who is running the show. Now, it is my opinion. I think Trump is going to win this fight, this argument, discussion, debate. He's going to, somehow. What's it going to take? I don't know. But what I will say is he is not the world's greatest president. This is not the world's greatest economy, but he's doing a damn good job considering the fucking scumbags that run and operate Washington, D.C. and the federal government bureaucracy. He's doing a good job. Could you do better? Could you stand up to the likes of Schumer and Pelosi? Could you, sit down at a table with Xi Jinping, with the European Union, with Canada, with Mexico? Could you sit down with them and negotiate better than Trump did? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But what's interesting is that Trump has successfully negotiated with Canada, with Mexico, with other nations, with the EU, with China. He's met with Vladimir Putin. Could you meet with Vladimir Putin, the former head of KGB in Soviet Russia, who came over and took over politically and has been running Russia for decades now? Could you sit at a table across from him and match wits? Well, President Trump was able to. And for doing so, he was called a traitor. Traitor! That is a capital offense. And the media and the senators and the Democrats in the House called him a traitor. That is disgusting. But it's indicative of a problem that's happening. Now, before I get to the problem that's happening, let's talk about the SNAP and EBT cards a little bit more. We as preppers understand that most of America, or the American average, is they have 3 days of food in their kitchen. 3 days. 1, 2, 3. Now, I'm sure that wealthy people, that country people, that middle income people have more than 3 days. So who is it that has 3 days or less? That would be the poor people. What are the poor people getting? They're getting the Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program, SNAP. They're getting the EBT cards, which is an electronic card. It looks like a credit card. And they're getting welfare. They're getting a hand up. Some are getting a hand out. Depends on whether they're honest or not. Right? Whether they honestly need help or whether they're taking advantage of the system. Now, be that as it may, and whichever one they may be, there's 42 million Americans who rely to one degree or another on this assistance program, on welfare. 42 million out of 350 million, almost 20%, more like 18%, 17%. 17%, even if it's 15% of the population of the United States of America that relies heavily on assistance just to eat. It's those people that are going to run out of food right away. Within 3 days, if they don't get their cards filled, right, if they can't use them in a store because of the government shutdown, what can we expect? Using history as a guide, the last time the EBT cards went down, those people had a chimp out. They went nuts. They're like animals in a zoo going wild. They went in and flash mob or flash looted stores. That's when 100 people run in, grab all they can in their arms and run out the door. Right? Are the clerks going to stop them? No, they're not. One, they're not going to chance getting killed. And two, right, they've been told you don't try and arrest people. You don't try and stop people. They're dangerous. That's the world we live in. I don't want to hear, well, you know, it's a man's job. No, it isn't. It's not my job to run around and be the law. Plus, you can get fucking arrested and sued for touching somebody while they're in the commission of a crime. That's the weird-ass world we live in. And I'm getting to what the net result of that is going to be for us as preppers. We know that these people that are on the supplemental system, not all of them, but a good number of them are desperate. And when you're desperate, you don't know when you're going to get food again. You're scared. You're upset. You're paranoid. You're frightened. Those people are those things. Those people are also going to be vengeful, angry, hate-filled, and they're going to blame others. You don't want to be those others when that shit starts. Now, I'm going to make a prediction that Trump is going to win this argument. I'm also going to make a prediction that it's going to be after these people start going nuts. Right? Because Trump went in and sit down and reported by Nancy Pelosi, right? Big Eyes Nancy. She said that the president asked if they were going to work with him on his wall program. And they said no. Meaning it's going to be their way or the highway. So when they said they're not going to work on it with him, they're saying they're not going to compromise at all. They're not going to work with him. They said we won't compromise. Right? It's easy to see what they're really saying. Well, no, Mr. President, we have a better plan. Well, if you're not going to work with me on my plan, says the president, then there's no point in talking. And Nancy said, the president said there's no point in talking, and he got up and walked away. He walked out of the room. Seriously, what's the point of working with somebody who says they're not going to work with you? Who is the man? Who's the boss? Who is the king of negotiation? Nancy fucking Pelosi? Nancy Granny Panties Pelosi? Chuck, I crapped my pants Schumer? No, they don't know how to negotiate. They're not negotiating billion-dollar deals. They're not negotiating trillion-dollar deals. They're not negotiating with heads of state intelligently. No, they're not. Trump has had meetings and negotiations and successfully come out of them. He had to put pressure on Mexico, but Mexico came to the table. He put pressure on Canada. Canada came to the table. He put pressure on the EU and EU member states, and they came to the table. He put pressure on China, and they came to the table. I'm not saying Trump ran away with everything. Well, you know, we all don't get everything we want, right? And China's not going to lose, but Trump doesn't want to lose either. So you're supposed to come away from a negotiation with everyone feeling like they got something they wanted, right? And a deal was struck and crisis averted. So what do we have with the Schumer-Pelosi panic pair? Right. Crisis not averted. Because they don't know how to negotiate. They don't know how to sit down, and they're not intellectually honest, even if they could understand the intellectual requirements of what it is they're doing. Just looking pretty in her cute little whatever fucking outfit, and Chucky Chuck Schumer wearing pants big enough to cover his adult diapers. Those two, just because you look the part doesn't mean you can do the part. So the House, with Democrat leadership now, has demonstrated that they've elected a Speaker of the House that's incapable of having a conversation, a debate, and work on a piece of legislation that everyone can agree with. They've demonstrated it. They're fucking morons. But of course, they're going to play it their way. which is bullshit. And it is bullshit. And Trump's going to play it his way, and I think he's willing to negotiate with them. He said something about, whoa, instead of a concrete wall, we'll put some steel in it and use a lot of more steel. It'll be cheaper, less expensive. Won't be as durable, won't last as long, but it will be less expensive. The Democrats aren't interested. I think what they want to do is they want to put a layer of marshmallows down across the border so that as the Mexicans are illegally trying to cross, they'll get hot, gooey marshmallows stuck on their shoes, and it'll be kind of like a fly trap, right? And they'll be stuck there, and it'll be really hard for them to get across the marshmallow minefield. And then if they go into town, if they make it through, the marshmallow goo on their feet will help us identify them as illegal immigrants. And then ICE can ask them to go back nicely to Mexico and do things properly. That's the Democrat plan, I believe. Fucking morons. So I don't think this is going to happen. I think Trump is going to declare a state of national emergency regarding our southern border. And whether the Democrats like it or not, whether they threaten impeachment or not, whether some lunatic tries assassinating the president again, right? He has the authority to declare a national emergency. It doesn't require facts that the Democrats agree with. It doesn't require statistics that the government of Pelosi agrees with. She's not really the government. She just thinks she is. And same with Chuck Schumer. Chucky, I crap my pants Schumer. They don't get to argue with his facts. They don't get to argue with his conclusions. They don't get to argue with his decision. He's the president, and in this world, the one we're living in, he gets to be the one that says we're in a state of emergency, right? And this is what we're going to do about it. Now, he can go down there and fix the wall and start building it without bringing the federal government back on board 100%, so that all of these people who have been furloughed or told to stay home, all these non-essential employees, they can keep the government shut down in place for weeks, for months, almost 2 years even. If he really wants to, he can do that. I don't think he will, but it is possible. And it's the possibilities that as preppers we need to look at and discuss. There's a very real possibility that the government shutdown is going to continue. And people in the EBT world are not going to be happy. People getting SNAP are not going to be happy. And I feel very bad for every last one of them. Because either they really need that help and they deserve it, and I'm sorry, or they're complete morons and they don't know how to live their life, and I feel bad that they're dependent on a government that really doesn't care about them and uses them as political pawns in the voting scheme. That's right, people on EBT and SNAP, who do you think they vote for? Right, Pelosi and Schumer types. And most of the government employees, most of them, from what I understand, are Democrats, because they like big government and they want more jobs and longer, bigger vacations and bigger, fatter, sweeter paychecks for doing government work. Like I said, that's their job. That's what they've chosen. And these are the risks. The same way I take a risk by taking the jobs I do. Same with you guys. We all take risks. There is no risk-free life, and now they're going to pay the price. Because Democrats are going that way, and Republicans are going that way, and they can't seem to find common ground that they both want to go on and work together. That's where we're at. Trump is not going to sign anything unless he wins. He could start working on the wall and get half of what he wants done, and he can still tell the Democrats, you have to come to the table and sign a piece of paper saying, I get what I want. Right? They can't yell at him and say he's holding, oh, this is beautiful. The Democrats said that Trump is holding hostage the American people. Hostage. That's a crime to keep someone hostage. And to use ransom money, right, to get your way with money. Is that extortion? Right? Ransoming is a form of extortion. That's a crime. So Trump is a extortionist. Trump is a hostage taker. Trump is a traitor. Trump is a liar. Trump is a motherfucker. Right? How many times have we heard fuck you Trump or fuck you, President, or whatever they say, from politicians, from bureaucrats, from actors, from Democrats on the left, especially those on the far, far left. And it was pointed out to me in one of the discussions I had today that, there's a lot of these old-fashioned, Southern-style, blue dog Democrats. Yeah, they're out there. But who are they putting into office? The most radical, screwy fuckheads who will be pressured by Pelosi to vote for her radical bullshit. And that's how this game works. It is a partisan battle, and the lunatics are running the asylum. Now, if we get to a point, this is where the rubber meets the road as far as it is for us preppers. If we get to a point where these EBT cards and SNAP things don't work, where there's no food stamps, no welfare, no freebies, no giveaways, no WIC, right? It's terrible. The consequences are going to be dire. Because these people in the past have rioted after just a couple of days. They protest, right? If they can't get the store they want, if they have to go to another store because one store can't work with the system, they'll protest them. What I'm saying is we are going to see if I am correct, if my assumptions that Trump is going to let all of this go in the can unless the Democrats capitulate. We're going to see shit hitting the fan. We're going to see small-scale looting. We're going to see small-scale riots. And that's just the start. I've talked about a partisan war that is coming. It is going to be American versus American. But it's not going to be to fight over the control of the government in Washington, or even the state capitol, or even at your city hall. The fight is going to be about, I don't like you because you're a Republican, and I don't like you because you're a Democrat. That is coming. Blood in the streets because the people are going to be at each other's throats. They're going to blame each other. Right? Now, am I going to go after anyone? Hell no. I'm going to avoid people. I'm going to stay the fuck away from them. And I'm going to keep them away from me the best I can. Because it's going to be a dangerous situation with scared, angry, hungry people. Now, I think that since, the Democrats are so generous with their millions of dollars that they make in state, local, and federal government, right? They're incredible millionaires and billionaires in politics. Go find out how many millions of dollars Maxine Waters' house is worth. Maybe Maxine Waters will set up a food kitchen out her back door and start spending her own money on food to feed the poor in her district that pays her salary, that she's used to garner, right, millions of dollars for herself. Maybe she can give that back to the people. You won't fucking see that, not from the likes of her. Maybe there'll be a Democrat somewhere that does that. But certainly not any of the big players. Not Nancy fucking Pelosi. Not Chuck Schumer. No. They're not going to line up and give their money away. Because they believe everyone should be taxed and then we'll pay the people. Right? So they don't pay any taxes at all. All they do is get free money. They get free money for doing their job. Free money for setting up contracts. Free money for doing government business. Oh, they're called junkets. Right? They take care of themselves, don't they? They feather their own nest pretty well, don't they? But these people out here are going to go nuts, and they're going to get loose. They've only got 3 days of food on average. They're going to get hungry fast. What do you think is going to happen? Right? If people are coming unglued right now already, wait till they're not making their house payments. Wait till they're not able to buy food. And, I'm not going to sit back and feel sorry for government workers who can't pay their bills. They should have saved their money. They should have 6 to 12 months of cash or some form of wealth that they can cash in to pay their bills in the event of government shutdowns and emergency situations, just like the rest of us should do that. They don't get a pass that they get to spend every penny they make on the next biggest screen TV and the next nicest car with their fat, cushy government job paychecks. And then get mad, right, when things don't go their way. Civilians, right, private sector workers, we lose our jobs. We get laid off. We get pay cuts. We get told, no, you don't get to have this job all the time. So to take a massive sector of the population which has chosen to work for the government and then feel sorry for them because they don't get to pay for their houses, what about all of the private sector people that have lost their houses, their cars, their families because of financial destruction is the best word to put it. We can definitely see shit hitting the fan in hot spots because of what is happening right now. And then following that, come springtime, I imagine that it's not going to get a whole lot better. That we're going to see a lot more radical, violent protesting coming from the left because they're not going to be getting their way. And when they don't get their way, they believe violent activity, violent outreaching is justified because they believe that because I'm a freedom-loving person, my words are an act of violence against them. Your words are an act of violence. And it's happening with people I know, that they're getting into verbal altercations. The frustration level on both sides is getting raised between Democrats and Republicans, or the far, far left and those who aren't. Even though they're not far away, they still, right, are at odds because one group is going that way and the other one's going the opposite direction. Right? We have that brewing right now. And while that's happening, the real estate market is slowing down. Tax receipts are slowing down, meaning the government's not getting very much money. Oh, they took my big-ass check and they haven't written me the little one they're supposed to send back. But I'm sure I'm waiting for them to cash that check. I'll see it in my bank statement. Right? The IRS, I bet they got one person there to cash checks. Right? But the one person that's supposed to write them isn't there. Anyways, let's continue with this. We're going to see more conflict, citizen against citizen. This is going to be a partisan disaster, which could lead to greater conflict and, of course, involvement by the government. And I'm sure the UN is going to say, well, the government's not fixing everything, so there must be a problem with the election system or the system of government, and we need to get involved. Oh, this is going to get stupid. Right? As the economy slows down, right, according to the smart people, the real smart people, we're going to see a deflationary, I'll use the word crisis, a deflationary situation starting this spring. There's going to be a liquidity issue. And we're going to have a deflationary recession coming up. It will be followed shortly, and I don't know how shortly, by an inflationary depression that comes afterwards because the government can't make wealth. The government can't make production. The government produces nothing. All they do is tax and get in the way. But the one thing they can do is print money. And they're going to give it to the people and print cash and print and print and print and print. That's where we're at in this system. If they raise interest rates, they're going to dry up liquidity. And that's what Powell has been doing with the Federal Reserve. That's what Janet Yellen was doing with the Federal Reserve once Trump was elected. They started raising rates. That dries up liquidity. They started QT, quantitative tightening. That is selling the garbage that they bought when the Dow was at, 14,000? They bought that garbage. It is now worth 22,000, and they're selling it at a higher rate. Isn't that interesting? They use your tax money to buy stocks to put on their balance sheet. The price goes up because they're flooding the market with capital, and then they're selling it now and getting rid of it at a profit. And it's putting the squeeze on America. It's putting the squeeze on us. To the tune of, I think, $60 billion a month. $60 billion a month the Federal Reserve is selling shit back to us. Trump only wants $5 billion for the wall, and they're doing $60 billion a month. But let's not talk about that. That is essentially a tax on us because we are paying for it. Oh, yeah. Right? The system is coming down. So all of this liquidity dries up. We have deflation. Then there's going to be some other issues, and we're going to have inflation. They're going to print what's called helicopter money. They're just going to give money away. They're going to give out a universal basic income. And if you make less than so many, they say less than $50,000 a year, guess what? You're going to get cash money ahead. And if you make more than $50,000, you're going to get the UBI, you're going to get the universal basic income, but you're going to pay more taxes to the government than they give you back in the form of UBI. But you'll take willingly what they give you because we're already getting screwed over. But they're going to pump all of this cash out here. Free money for everybody because the government has the keys to the printing press. And while they can't make wealth, they can't make real wealth, they can make paper money. And as you know, if everyone was a billionaire, everything we spent would be funny money because there would be no value behind it. And that is what we have to look forward to as 2019 progresses into 2020. And anywhere along the line, we can have a massive false flag or shit it's the fan event that causes trouble. So we need to be ready now for shit hitting the fan. Or they could keep, there's no shit it's the fan event. No giant black flag, right? No nuke dropped, no power outage, no problems here, no problems there. But we're going to have problems with the economy and the currency. Whether they like it or not, it is happening right now. And this fight with Trump and the Democrats is just symptom of the conflict in this country between doing the right thing and not. And Trump spending all of this money is not the right thing. Deficit spending is an example of this printing press mentality the government has. And all it does is create a bill, right? A notice, an invoice that you and I have to pay. It's a promise that the government makes that we have to pay back. How would you like to go to Nancy's house and she spends $1,000 at every meal and she turns to you and hands you a fucking bill and says, you're paying for my meal, you're paying for my meal, you're paying for my meal. That's what the government does. And when I pay tens of thousands of dollars a year, I know I'm putting meals on Schumer's table and Nancy's table and every other scumbag politician's table. I'm putting meals on their table for doing nothing more than screwing me over, you, my family, my kids, everybody is getting screwed over. Everybody, that is, that pays taxes. And I pay. Oh, fuck, I pay. We all pay. You feel it. But we could definitely get a shit it's the fan event, a partisan war out of this. Because I fucking had it. And I know the Democrats have fucking had it. Doesn't matter who's right or wrong. We've all had it with each other. And I'm seeing evidence of that in the way people behave professionally and on the street personally. They're in each other's throats. And it's not going to get better. Even if they get the government going again, there's still going to be animosity, hatred coming from the left towards Trump. He could give in to everything they demand and they're still not going to be happy with him. They're still going to want to impeach him. They're still going to want to screw you over and pay for their ridiculous socialist communist programs. This is the world we have, and this is where we're going. This is the world we have, and this is the world where we are going. And if you rely on the government, and if you rely on corporations, and if you rely on other people for a paycheck to supply you with food, water, shelter, clothing, if you rely on them, you're not doing a good job. It used to be that Americans relied on themselves. People of the world took care of themselves. And they could count on friends and neighbors to trade with them and make sure they got the things they needed in the way of food, water, shelter, and clothing. Medicine, self-defense, those are all things we can provide ourselves and help each other with. We shouldn't be relying on governments and corporations for that, especially in the event of a short-term emergency. You should be able to go more than 3 fucking days without starving. But that's not the world we have. The world we have is one of a shitstorm. And it's coming. And that's why we all need to be prepared ahead of time. Chance favors the prepared mind. Right? If you're not prepared, right, you are in for a hell of a bumpy ride coming this year. And even if you are prepared, get ready for a hell of a bumpy ride this season. All right, folks, I want to thank you very much for supporting us at Patreon. This is great, right? It helps keep the information systems flowing. This is an information war that I'm fighting here with you guys. It's about getting information spread. Talk to your prepper groups. Talk to your family members. Talk to people who are aware of what's going on, and keep each other informed. Share. Help. It's only going to be us at some point, and we're not going to get news. Our world, when shit hits the fan, is going to become a 10-mile radius around us. Basically, as far as your eye can see. Right? You can see about 10 miles. Unless you got swamp and trees and little foothills and you're in the bottom of a valley, right? But still, seriously, 10 miles is your world. We're eventually going to shrink back to that when things go to shit. And at that time, you're going to be responsible for yourself. The same way I'll be responsible for myself. Food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense. Get it done. Get it taken care of. Right? We can see the writing on the wall. It's coming. There is no magic savior. There is no QAnon that's going to stop that shit that's coming. Even if Hillary is arrested, and Obama, and Comey, and Lynch, and everyone else that I name on such a regular basis, I can't stand it. Even if they were all arrested, it would not stop the partisan hatred. It would, in fact, it would increase it. It would not stop our economy coming to a grinding fucking halt. It would just put some nice orange jumpsuits on the people that we dearly detest, because they are criminals. Admitted criminals. And they're not being prosecuted. That said, right, shit is still going to hit the fan in one way or another. So get prepared, folks. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Thank you again very, very much. Semper Fi, and Godspeed to all.